All right, so 5-9. Got any notes right here? Just going over. So quadratics are used a lot in the real world. Okay? So we can write an equation to describe the situation. We can use one of our techniques to solve it. Find out what's being asked. So here's the strategies. You want to keep this out while you're doing your stuff. Define your variable. That goes for any word problem. Define your variables. Those of you who were in here this morning, that's what we did all day today, was define the variables. Okay? And the use logical variables to represent them. So if you're talking about base and height and speed and time, you're going to use letters like B and S and T and Y instead of just X. Determine an equation that relates your variables to each other. Solve using the appropriate method. Consider whether the answers make sense. Okay? So if you're doing something about time, okay, how long did it take for it to hit this height? And you get a positive and negative number. Does a negative number make sense if you're talking about time? Can you go back in time? No. So it doesn't make sense. Okay? Label your answers and check your work. Okay, so some things to remember. 2 consecutive integers. That's going to be something like x plus 1. Okay? 2 consecutive integers. So when you see a problem that says 2 consecutive integers, that's not how you got it. 3 consecutive integers. Okay? That would be x plus 1, and then x plus 2. Think about it. If my first integer is 5, my next one would be 6, my next one would be 7. 5 plus 1 is 6, 5 plus 2 is 7. Now, if you have 2 integers that are consecutive but odd or even, like let's say my first number was 13, okay? Well, then my next odd number is going to be 15, which is 2 past that. So, if you had 3 numbers all in a row that were all odd or all even, well, the first one would be x. So let's say 1. The next odd number after that would be 3. So 1 plus 2. And the next number after that would be 5. Okay? 1 plus 4. Okay? Because your first number is x. Let's say 18. The next even number after that would be 20. 18 plus 2 is 20. The next number after that would be 22. 18 plus 4 is 22. The perimeter of an angle, of a rectangle. Well, it always helps to draw pictures. So you have your length, your width, and your width. So the perimeter is going to be length plus width plus length plus width. Also known as 2L plus 2W. The area of a rectangle is length times width. And the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. All right. So, the product. As soon as you see the word product, you know you're talking about multiplication. All right? So, the product of 2 consecutive integers. Well, that's going to be x and x plus 1. It doesn't say 2 consecutive odd or 2 consecutive even. So, we're looking for numbers like, 5 and 6, 12 and 13. Now, yes, you can probably look at this and go, what 2 numbers, what side by side make 30? Yes, it's 5 and 6. But you have to be able to do the algebra for it because it'll be more complicated. So, this number times this number equals 30. So yes, I'm glad you know the answer already because it's pretty obvious, 5 and 6. But you got to be able to do the algebra. So first thing we're going to do is distribute. We're going to get x squared plus x. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. X squared plus x equals 30. Then we need to get it set equal to 0 like we talked about earlier. And now we're going to factor. Now we have to guess and check. Okay? We need two numbers that multiply to give us 30 that differ by 1. We already know what they are. Okay? You know they're 6 and 5. Hopefully. Now, here's the thing. One number. Yes, sir. Hurry up. Alright, so you gotta remember, this is a negative 30 right here. Which means the 5 and the 6, the only way to make a negative number is if one of them is positive and one of them is negative. So it's either minus 6 or minus 5. The important thing here, though, is we want positive leftovers. So if we do 6 minus 5, we get 1. But if we do 5 minus 6, we get negative 1. Right? So we want the 6 to be positive and the 5 to be negative. That will give me negative 30, and then 6x minus 5x will give me the positive 1x in the middle. Now I set these both equal to 0. X plus 6 equals 30, equals 0. And x minus 5 equals 0. So, what are my two answers? What's this? Negative 6. What's this? Positive 5. Okay. So, most of you, the reason I said you can't just guess is most of you were wanting to say, oh, the answer is easy. It's 5 and 6. And that is correct, right? Yes? Okay. But look at my other answer, negative 6. What's the next answer after negative 6? What's the next number after negative 6? No. Negative 5, right? We're adding 1 to it. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. And that's the way, if you didn't do the math, you just guessed it, you would have gotten half of it right. Because 5 times 6 is 30, but negative 6 times negative 5 is also 30. So that's why you can't just guess and say, oh, I know the answer. You got to do it algebraically, because there's actually two sets of answers. Number 2, if you square a number, okay? So here's my number, right? X, that's my unknown. It says if you square it, the result equals is 6 times that number. Okay? So now we solve. Move this over. X squared minus 6x equals 0. Now, how can we factor that? Obviously, it's not a trinomial, so how do we factor? What do we do? What can we take out? Yes. What's the GCF? What can you take out common from x squared and negative x? Yes. So you can factor an x out. And now you have your two answers set. X equals 0. X minus 6 equals 0. So, x equals 6. So my two answers are 0 and 6. You might be thinking, well, how's 0 an answer? Well, what's 0 squared? 0. What's 6 times 0? So does 0 work plugging it in? Yeah. What's 6 squared? 36. What's 6 times 6? 36. So it works. So both answers are correct. So if you have something like this, you can factor into two binomials. If you have something as simple as this, just plot the GCF and set them both equal to 0. All phones should be put away. Okay, find 3 consecutive positive odd numbers. Okay? So this tells me at the end, we're not going to have, like we did before, -5, -6, something like that. We only want the positive answers. So we might end up with negative answers, but we're going to throw those out. That's telling us that right off the bat. Also, the fact that it says odd, that means we're going to be dealing with x plus what? 2, and x plus 4. Very good. Okay? Those are my 3 numbers. Those are my 3 consecutive numbers. It says such that the product of the first and the third, is 4 less than 7 times the second. Let's look at it carefully. My first number is x. My second number is x plus 2. My third number is x plus 4. All right? So let's just imagine. If I had, x was 5. That'd be 5, 7, and 9. Does that make sense? Okay. So 5, 7, and 9. Now, it says the product, meaning times, multiplication, right, of the first one and the third one. Well, x times x plus 4 is, that's my equal sign right there, 4, and this is the hard part, 4 less than means you actually put minus 4. A lot of people want to put 4 minus something. 4 less than means you're comparing it back to something previous. So 4 less than 7 times the second number. There's my second one, x plus 2. Now let's do the math. Distribute x squared plus 4x equals 7x plus 14 minus 4. Combine like terms, 7x plus 10. Now, since I have an x squared, and I can get 3 terms, I need to move everything over to the left. So I'm going to subtract 7x, which is going to give me minus 3x. And I'm going to move over to 10, which is minus 10. So now I got to guess and check. I need 2 numbers that multiply to give me 10 that differ by 2. Okay, Jim. What do you got? Come on. Put your head up here. I need 2 numbers that multiply to give me 10, sorry, that differ by 2.
2 and 5.
2 and 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 minus 2 is 3. Okay? So I know my numbers are 2 and 5. Now I got to figure out which one I want to be negative, which one I want to be positive. Look here in the middle. Negative 3x. Which one needs to be negative, the 5 or the 2? The 5. Because I want more negatives left over. 5 minus 2 is positive 3. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. So I want this to be negative and that to be positive. So I set them both equal to 0. X plus 2 equals 0. X minus 5 equals 0. So what's my answer for x plus 2? Negative 2. Do I want negative numbers? No. So I'm going to throw that one out right now. If it didn't have that stipulation of 3 consecutive positive numbers, then I would do negative 1, negative 2, 0, and 4. Oh, sorry, negative 2, 0, and 2. Those would be my 3. But I don't want any negative numbers, so that gets thrown out. And then here's 5. So my answer is 5. What's the next odd number after that? 7 and 9. Those are my 3 numbers. And you can check it. 9 times 5, the first times the third, is 45. Okay? Then 7 times 7, 49, minus 4 is 45. It checks out. The answer is correct. Okay, Amy is 4 years older than Meg. So, who are we comparing to? Are we comparing to Meg or to Amy? Meg is our base, right? That's who we're comparing to. No, you're right the first time. Remember, look at then, and that tells you who we're starting with. Okay? So Meg is going to be our M. Now, Amy is 4 years older than Meg. So what's Amy going to be?
M plus 4.
M plus 4. So those are our variables. We defined our variables. It says the product of their ages is 32. So M times M plus 4 equals 32. So this is going to be just like number 1. We're going to distribute the M. M squared plus 4M equals 32. Move the 32 over. And now we're going to factor. We need two numbers that multiply to give me 32 that differ by 4. So what numbers make 32? 1 and 32, 2 times what?
2 and
16. 4 times 8. Which one of those differs by 4? 4 and 8. Good. So we're going to put M, 4, 8. Now, look here. This is our guide. Do we want more positives or negatives? We want more positives. So which one's going to be positive? The 8 or the 4? Now we set them both equal to 0. What two answers does that give us? 4, negative 8. Good. Which one do we throw out? Negative 8. Why do we got to throw out negative 8? You can't have a negative 8. Okay, there's no way that Meg is negative 8 years old. Okay? So, Meg is 4 years old. And Amy is what? Yep. She's 4 years older, and 8 times 4 is 32.